Hoyovase doesn't seem to know how sometimes his characters or his game work. Oh yes, everything he does I don't know if it's crazy or pretty smart. Today they just played Mavuika, and not in the way you would like or think. They just made changes I think big on how Mavuika works both his teams. In and out of the field. And a lot of people might consider it a nerf, everyone panicking. They're going to nerf Mavuika, or it could be a buff, and in fact this could place Mualani and Kinish as 3rd and 4th. Best team of the game, beating gaming below Alakino, Novelet, and its own. Mavuika Curry with Mavuika support Atena, so very careful, attentive. Open your eyes, ears, and there will be nothing else. Take it easy. If you're eating, and if you're eating, let it be very good. Leave a good like, good opinion and subscribing, and leave a good comment too. Thank you for enjoying watching the channel video, and remembering it costs you nothing. It is totally free of charge. It recommends and positions a video, which makes it grow and viralis. So I help a lot. Thank you for that. And remember that once a day, and I think I'm going to warm up near Mavuika's banner. Listen to what I'm going to say as a lunar blessing draw. You already know this, and to participate you just have to give like, subscribe with bell, commentary for algorithm. Good luck with that blessing, and attentive to the videos that the closer Mavuika may come. It's more than one bendy a day. I don't know, we'll see and go with the beta changes to Mavuika. Mavuika have changed, gentlemen. The first and least important thing has basically changed text to make it better than then. Written, so that people do not have problems of understanding. This is silly, but for a lot of people it's interesting, and a part they've gone up slightly. The loading scale damage that you've seen gameplays, and welcome to. Invited to the live ones, because live we see gameplays, and surely to the hype. You're watching this video, we're reacting to several teams that have leaked into the Mavuika beta with very interesting data about those equipment, such as that Sitlao and Furina on the same team don't work well because some enemies freeze in Mavuika. Instead of making a melt over the frozen one, as a hand-label lead makes an icebreaker and you screw the damage. Then come and check this out, which is very interesting. It doesn't change at all that you don't know. You can play Furina with Sitlo and Quiet, and basically you've climbed a little bit. Because there's a gameplay where he goes around with a bike and makes loads. We'll see. If it can melt all of those like that or something like that, it's gone up a little climbing of that load. The rest of the text is simply that they have changed descriptions to make it easier to identify and define what each of the things does. We start with the changes. We start with a nerf, the first talent to explain in Mavuika's video. If you want to stay up to date here, there's the video of what Mavuika does, so go see it to see in depth and know really all the details of the character. Basically, the first nerf is that he's been lowered in the first Ascension talent when character of the team activates a burst noctambulo, i.e. in any situation, in any moment whenever there is a NATLAN character once every 14 seconds or more is activated. A burst Nightwalker when someone hits, so this is always going to be, they've lowered it, 35 to 30% more dig. As for outside the camp, i.e. you have lost 5% attack. Oi! Then next nerf, let's go with the nerfs. In C2, and this is very important, remember that the very powerful C2 gave him 300 attack. Base, this served for the Mavuika within the camp, and for the Mavuika outside the camp, with his elementary skill making it Xiangling and Kini Chimolani mainly. Well aside, I'll make a video comparing Mavuika to a Xiangling and whether it's good or not. Sub DP is because a lot of community is already being turned around a lot and we're going to leave things clear and really explain what function it has of sub DPs, because if it has, and if you're going to put Kini Chimiolani in the top of 5 best teams in the game, well, the thing is, the 200 base attack? Leave me in the comments if you want a whole video of Mavuika and Xiangling and explaining only the part of sub DPs for which I want it from sub DPs, because the base attack has dropped it on the C2 that you know. I added 300 of base attack. Now it's 200. That's also a nerf, and it's also strong because it's 100 minus base attack on this one. C2 that was very powerful. Well, this affects both Mavuika in and out of the field, and it's interesting to know this. Base attack change with which Mavuika herself will now do less damage inside and outside of the camp. 5% less attack, that is nothing, but 100 less base attack that gives us the C2, for which you get C2, Cheros don't have to worry. Now there's been a big change, and this is a buff, and this can really put Kinich and Mualani teams in the literally current top of the game. And maybe if in the end, at least with the cone Mavuika works as sub DPS, which we'll deal with in another video because it's even a buff to Raiden National. Well, your second Ascension talent, that is all players could enjoy.
Huh?
Of this calmly, it has basically changed from us to 50% of the damage inflicted on the character. In field when you throw your ulti, when you're not in carry mode, but in support mode, it's support mode. Say, the character in the field, in this case 50% damage inflicted on Mualani or Kini, and remember that this was then decreasing to 0, i.e. the first seconds of the rotation you will do more damage and then less. But remember that Mualani starts its rotation with the ulti that is its maximum damage. You put a million and a peak in Kinish if you have constellations. His first ball also does more damage, so this would obviously benefit Kini and Mualani died it. Well, have they changed this and nerfed it or not? Now, the maximum damage inflicted is no longer 50%. Now it is 40%. Aye, but instead of buff or being the character in the field, now 40% damage inflicted that then decreases is to all the members of the team. If we take into account that a team from Kinish, Furina, Mavuika, Bennett makes Furina out of the field on Kinnich's burn, and in this case Mavuika support, that will be the best. Zub DPS of Kinish Vaporis Furina out of the field. Who knows if your Furina C2 with 100% damage inflicted now, 140. See some Furin vaporize 300 or 400 outside the field. Apart from the Kinish balls, apart from the base burn damage, apart from the damage to crack, because Mavuika applies less than Xiangling with what in that core will not only vaporize Furina as before, but it would generate quite a lot more crackling than was previously generated. It's a buff as the damage goes from more to less. It's interesting and it's not a wild thing either. Mainly as it benefits the first seconds when entering the field. Above all, it would benefit in case it works at Raiden National, Raiden's Court, which is what does nothing else. Enter playing in Raiden National, but with Mavuika instead of Xiangling, the ball of Kinish that the first always gives more damage in the first ulti, and surely the first and Mualani bited that. Remember that Mualani who has Cone also Cone gives you more damage to the first bite after throwing the ulti. Good on the first dry bite, but in the rotation it's ulti and then the first bite, so the second is a buff. It's crazy, in fact, because that damage to the whole team and not just the character in the field makes. In theory, it also affects itself as CS sub, i.e. in the case that, of course, if it can function as a better Xiangling in Raiden National and previously buffable, the character in the field who was Raiden, now he's going to put this buff in Raiden, Yellen, herself. Apart from the scroll set buff of 40% elemental damage to Raiden, Yellen, and herself and apart. Remember that C2 that continues to maintain the 20% decrease of defense to the enemies of Thair, which would benefit Raiden C2 who already ignores 60% the defense would now ignore 80% of the May. Raiden himself in the field, so you will have new Raidens doing much more damage than before. Yellen and herself, I'm afraid. Yes, gentlemen, this is what you just changed from. Mavuika in beta is spectacularly interesting, and as I say, I will make a separate video talking about Mavuika as a support, because she's turning a lot around in the community. Some things I think she is, a little bit by doing the beef. I hope you're healthy that I say one thing and there are people who try to say the opposite just to see if a debate is created, and I hope that that will be that way and not that of others, as has happened before, but I think it's very complicated to be able to put yourself above all these buffos that I just explained to you and what Mavuika could do outside the field. So, little more leave a good like a good ulti of Bennett. Leave me the comments if you think it is a nerf or a buff is being talked about nerf, but the damage inflicted on the entire team very carefully. The year inflicted is quickly lost, because it goes from that 40% to 0%. And you have 40% if you win the 200 points of the combat points of the ulti, i.e. there will be teams like National Raiden where since you don't have another character with Octambulism don't reach 200 points and will be not a 40 but a 20% damage inflicted to the equipment that will be reduced quickly to 10 in the first 8 seconds, but it's already more than a single character buff on the field is to the whole team. So As I say, the comments and it is buff or nerf for you is more buff to the whole team, more nerf to. I'm of a single character, and so carry I understand myself. And little more will remain very strong. Care to have very good day. Thanks for supporting the video, like, and all those things. We forget to participate for the Betty because consider Mavuika and a lot of characters that you want, and you're not going to have proto gamers, so I'm looking forward to trying to help you and give you air. I'm blessed very carefully, having a very good day, and bye.